when it comes to this whole new paradigm that we're about to walk into with Donald Trump winning the presidential election, it's something that shouldn't be too much of a surprise, being that we're talking about a corporation, a corporation that has GMO in all the supermarkets, fluoridated water in all the different states, oil spills that go unpunished, vaccinations with toxic chemicals that turn children autistic, things that you can actually deal with and change that affect your everyday life, things that you actually could deal with but actually never deal with because they're not maybe popular conversations, or who cares, or whatever the case is. Party on, party on, party on. So when you hear people say, okay, well, maybe it's because the poor whites were fed up with their party and they supported Trump because they wanted something, or it was the poor blacks that didn't really get behind Hillary because whatever reason, and she could have got in office. And I think that is a ridiculous statement to make when you look at it like this. Poor whites and poor blacks don't run the electoral college. Period, point blank. That's the end of that conversation. When it comes to the popular vote is just as simple. The popular vote happened on social media, whether it was your Twitters, your Instagrams, your Facebooks, your YouTubes. That is the popular vote. Not when you went actually to the voting polls. It was already decided by the electoral college who they were going with, right? So when you look at some of the interviews and you see people that used to work for the electoral college say things like, well, I didn't want to be with my party anymore because they already made the decision who they was going with, which was Trump. So I walked away. So now you got to realize, like, this is people that worked for the system and said they were stepping away because they already knew the decision was made. Shit, they came out with a video saying Hillary Clinton was dead. That should have went viral in emails and all these different things, but it didn't. It wasn't used in a way to swing in her favor. So no matter, with the Haiti situation, everything that came out that could have damaged her brand, mostly women, I'm gonna say, kept her afloat because she could have been the first woman president. So no matter how outrageous the claims were, people were still anxious that it would be a woman in office, opposed to whatever her policies would be. Whereas with Trump, it started off as a joke. Social media made it go viral because it was a joke. Everybody made it a joke. It's been in movies, Trump is the president. It's been in cartoons. It's been places where you can look at this and it's been planted in your mind for so long. So when you get to this position where Hollywood again plays its part as far as the propaganda, and then with the new tool of social media just kind of making it hit home, and that's where you wind up with this situation. So when it comes to Trump being the president, it's not a surprise. The same way Barack Obama shouldn't have been a surprise to anybody who understands the long-term effects of Barack Obama being in office while so many things were happening to the black community. There's but so much you can say that he did, and but when you hear people say, well, he was just an inspiration just to be in that position, that's cool and all, but even Donald Trump called that out as empty sense of hope and empty sense of change, because there was nothing done and there was no results, and nobody had a real argument that they can actually even put to this day say, well, because of him, mass incarceration went down. Because of him, healthcare was free, no tax, we got reparations. There was nothing that you can say that can stack up to the fact that, okay, other than being black and in a position of power. And again, nothing against his character as a man, as a great inspiration for other generations. We do appreciate that. But in a world, in a global economy, people appreciate more when you got something to show. Everybody else got something to show. And that's where things got a little tricky with Hillary, because when she would make her rounds, Israel didn't throw no party for her. They didn't throw a concert for her. They just would sit her down and tell her what her logo was the flag of Israel. You understand? So it was clear that the agenda Israel had laid out for her. You know, they made their agreement, she would talk, and they made their, every other community had their agreement with her. But when she came to the black community, shucking, jiving, dancing, and just the worst representation that we can ever get, and people seen it as a joke. And then these same people would say, well, never Trump, I wouldn't vote for Trump, but she was the only one running against Trump that would have a fair chance to beat him. Okay, so instead of working with her and telling her what the agenda is, pound that shit away. Reparations, because when you speak and when you hear her speak, and when I heard her speak, and you hear her articulate what her policies would be as far as the Planned Parenthood and something about college and possibly something with ending mass incarceration or beginning the process. Those are vague conversations for the black community. They're not exactly addressing the black community that has been focused on when it came to oppression, when it came to the crime bill, when it came to the mass incarceration, when it came to so many different policies, the Jim Crows and so forth and so on, that it directly impacted us. And then in return, nobody has gave us any real relief other than a catchy catchphrase and next time, give me another 4 years, whether it went from Kennedy all the way to Obama. That's all you kept wound up getting. So at the point where you get somebody who tells a more blatant truth, I think the community just kind of looked at it like, well, I would rather go with somebody who's going to at least be closer to closer to the truth, opposed to not saying anything at all. Not saying that she wouldn't have said anything, but nobody exactly addressed it in a way where we can feel comfortable about the results. And by just because people stood next to her, that didn't give us any answers. When she sat with Congress and the black Congress would come out and say, well, we're supporting her, but they never gave the reason why. When you would hear when you see Jay-Z and whoever else would stand, there was no reason why they were supporting her other than she would look good in office as a woman, and I don't like the other guy. That's not a reason to galvanize the people to come together and support anybody at this point. When we did that for Barack Obama, who's again an amazing guy, look good is in office. But at the same time, there's nothing that we can all say, yo, because of him, now I got my reparations, or now I got my father or my brother or whoever out of prison because of these ridiculous sentences. Or so I think people wasn't falling for that anymore. They wasn't just falling for the just let mommy take care of it. I want to see a woman in power. If you have a mother or a grandmother, most people were raised in single homes, and or the child support situations, and you got to realize that makes men feel a certain way, and it's a real part of the conversation. So it's not saying that she wouldn't have been great, and it's not saying that he's going to be any better, but at the same time, you got to know that the black community was never really properly addressed. And when we had the conversation, or when you look at Diddy having a conversation of hold the vote, Dr. Claude making it very clear and articulating the breakdown of how to vote in blocks, when you see and you hear the examples of why we make certain moves and why we need what we need to focus on, and then you get people breaking the line and breaking solidarity for their own self-interest, then I think everything just fell to pieces. And whatever support that she could have got, everybody just turned it back and put in Harambe and Hennessy and all type of ridiculous shit. And I'm not saying that was good either, but at the same time, it's like, everybody right now is just a wild card. It's just a toss up. And if you're focused on, if you're an entrepreneur, you're an entertainer, a stripper, all the things that a real estate guy, other real estate people might have to watch out, because it could get a little vicious. It could get a little vicious on the end when you're competing against somebody who now has a layout of the entire state. You know, China is going to benefit. I think Russia and China will benefit because they're social media people. I think they was helping move that social media movement, because if you think back to the Ron Paul campaign, the people kept Ron Paul in the conversation, and the party pushed him out of the conversation. The party isolated him and didn't even bring him up. So when it comes to like the Green Party, the Steins, and whoever else was running, how were they so voiceless when there's so many people that say they were supporting them, but you would see not one tweet, not one, well, maybe not enough, or they wasn't making enough posters and they wasn't making enough noise and damage. Instead, these same supporters of these candidates were so anti-Trump that they made more posters and more anti-Trump noise than anything. So it just became a Trump conversation, in which he trumped the other candidates. And now there you have it. So now, you know, we at a point where everybody's like, okay, now what? Well, locally, you're going to have to tighten up the community that shares fights, that shares silly things or whatever. That, you got to know that's the feds. That's not half real and half fake. You know, these federal agents pretending to be recording artists, pretending to be rappers, and pretending to be conscious people or whoever. Like, you got to know by now the counterintelligence agencies that are out there doing these things to the community purposely to cause distractions and dissension will, with the country being at with the country and the company being at that breaking point, it could get a little tricky, because if they start pushing some of these hot buttons, and if people are not focused enough and don't learn the lesson, it can just break everything to pieces. But if the people tighten up and get to the dealing with that GMO, deal with that fluoride, deal with real issues that bring the people together, then I think we stand a better chance for a greater future for the next 4 years, and hopefully for everlasting life and live happily ever after. But to each his own. Subscribe, comment, share, let me know what you think. And hey, you know, the American meme come true. I don't think anybody else will be able to do what he just did, just by, you know, starting off so crazy. They'll probably get their ass shot. So don't even think about doing it like that way. If you're gonna have if you're thinking about running for anything, you know, I think if you run on the premise of honesty and what you'll do and so forth and so on, you'll have a better chance opposed to being offensive. And even though he had his supreme honest moments, I think the offensive things are what gave him more air for his sail and kept him afloat for so long. But unfortunately, or fortunately, that doesn't work for everybody, and don't be the one to learn the hard way. Salute to everybody who subscribed to my channel. Again, this is 10 years that we been on this channel. Salute to me, salute to everybody who's been rocking with me since the beginning, and thanks and welcome everybody who's brand new to it. And again, like, share, subscribe, talk to me, let me know what's good, let me know what you want to hear next, let me know, talk to me. Thank you.